You've been taught to search for an empty tomb. You've been conditioned to imagine rolled away stones, abandoned shrouds, a body that vanished on the morning of the third day. You were told that the resurrection was an event, something that happened once, in a specific place, witnessed by few, recorded in ancient pages. But what if all of that was just the shell of something much larger? What if the story you learned was only the shadow of a truth, so vast that it needed to be translated into concrete images so that minds still asleep could begin to comprehend? What if the resurrection was never about one man rising from the dead, but about all of humanity awakening from a deep sleep? Take a deep breath now. Feel the air entering, expanding your lungs, touching every cell of your body. You are alive, conscious, present, and in this moment, something in you already knows that this narrative is not new. You are not learning, you are remembering. 2,000 years ago, institutions began building walls around a truth that was, by nature, without borders. They transformed a collective awakening into exclusive property. They codified into dogma that which should remain a living experience. They said that only one man resurrected, when the original message whispered that everyone can resurrect not from physical death, but from unconsciousness. Not in a distant future, but now. Not out there, but within. The word resurrection comes from the Latin resurrectio, which means to rise again. But rise from what? The obvious answer seems to be from death. But there is a death much deeper and more insidious than the physical, the death of consciousness. It is possible to walk, talk, work, love, and live an entire life while asleep. It is possible to exist for entire decades without ever truly being present, without ever experiencing the fullness of the moment, without ever recognizing who you really are. This is the death from which the resurrection invites us to awaken. Jesus was not the only one to resurrect. He was the first to show that it was possible. He was the seed that demonstrated to the entire forest its own nature. When he said, "I am the way," he was not declaring exclusivity. He was revealing a universal map. When he said, "I am the Father are one," he was not separating himself from you. He was inviting you to recognize the same unity within yourself. But that was dangerous, very dangerous. A religion can be controlled, a collective awakening, not. A church can be built around a single savior, but how to build walls around a truth that says the kingdom of God is within you? How to maintain power over people who have discovered that they do not need intermediaries to touch the divine? So, the message was altered, subtly, gradually, over centuries. The internal awakening was transformed into an external event. Direct experience was replaced by obedient belief. The invitation to die to the ego and be reborn in full consciousness was translated as acceptance of specific doctrines about a specific man at a specific man at a specific time. And so, billions of people came to wait for external salvation, while the door to resurrection remained unlocked within them, waiting only for them to notice and open it. Are you starting to feel it now? That familiar unease? That silent recognition of something you always knew but forgot along the way? Breathe again. Slower this time. Feel. Resurrection is not a belief. It is an experience, and it is available to you now, in this moment, not because you are special, but because you are human. Because consciousness is your essential nature. Because beneath all the layers of conditioning, fear, desire, and identification, there is a core of pure presence that was never born and can never die. The Gospels are filled with clues that point to this deeper truth, but you have been taught to read them literally when they were written symbolically. When Mary Magdalene goes to the tomb and finds it empty, she represents each of us who seeks the divine in dead places, in ancient texts, in empty rituals, in institutions that have lost the flame. And when she hears the voice calling her name and turns to recognize the resurrected Christ, that is the moment when consciousness awakens, when you stop looking outside and turn inward. The empty tomb is your mind emptied of compulsive thoughts. The rolled away stone is the weight of the past finally released. The abandoned shroud are the false identities you have worn for so long, finally recognized as not being you. And the resurrected Christ, it is your true nature, which has never been dead, only forgotten. 3 days, from crucifixion to resurrection, 3 days. But not days on the calendar. 3 stages of transformation. The death of the ego, the crucifixion of everything you believed be, the burial, the dark period of dissolution, where the caterpillar becomes soup inside the cocoon, and the rebirth, the emergence of free consciousness, no longer identified with the limitations of form. You've been through it, maybe multiple times. Every time an identity you carried shattered, every time a core belief was destroyed, every time life forced you to let go and you felt like you were dying, but something new emerged on the other side. That was resurrection, small resurrections, preparing you for the great resurrection, the complete awakening to who you really are. The mystical traditions of all cultures know the secret. The Sufis call it dying before you die. The Buddhists speak of enlightenment, the recognition of inherent Buddha nature. The Hindus describe moksha, liberation from the illusion of the separate self. The Christian Gnostics, silenced by the institutional church, taught that Christ was not a man, but the principle of awakened consciousness latent in everyone. And Jesus was someone who fully realized this awakening, who became so transparent to the divine that there was no longer separation between the human and the sacred. And then, instead of keeping it to himself, he tried to show everyone, you will do things even greater than these, not because he was less, but because you are capable of more than you imagine. But don't let these words become just more concepts in your mind, more spiritual information to accumulate. Resurrection is not something you learn, it's something you live. So, no, as you read these words, do something different. Stop reading for a moment. Close your eyes. Really, close them now. Feel the weight of your body in the chair or wherever you are. Feel the temperature of the air on your skin. Listen to the sounds around you, near and far. Don't judge, just observe. Now bring your attention to your breath. Don't try to control it, just observe. It goes in, it goes in, it goes into, all on. Without your effort, your body breathes you, life breathes through you. And there is something watching all of this. Something that is aware of the breath, aware of the sounds, aware of the thoughts, arising and disappearing. That something that observes, pure, silent, ever present, is you, not the you that has a name, a history, problems, and plans. The deeper you, the you that exists before thought, the you that was here before you learned any religion, any belief, any concept about who you should be. This is the Christ in you, unconditional awareness, pure presence. Some call it the soul, others the witness, still others Buddha nature. The name doesn't matter, the experience matters. And when you rest in that awareness, even if just for a moment, something dies. The little self, the fabricated self, The self that constantly worries, that judges, that compares, that fears, it dies, not permanently yet. It will come back, but for a moment there is a space, there is silence, there is peace, and in that space something resurrects, something that has always been here but was covered up. Your true nature, vast, peaceful, connected to everything. This is resurrection. Not a historical event you need to believe, a present experience you can verify, now, and now. And no, open your eyes when you're ready. You have just resurrected. For a moment, you died to the limited identity and awakened to something greater. And you can do this whenever you want, with every conscious breath, with every moment of full presence. Every time you stop searching outside and recognize the fullness within. This is the truth that has been hidden, not by malicious conspiracy, but by misunderstanding. Those who institutionalized the message of Jesus had not experienced what he experienced. So, they did the best they could with the tools they had. They transformed experience into doctrine, presence into ritual, awakening into religion. Don't blame them, but also don't let their limited interpretations prevent you from accessing the direct truth. You don't need to wait to die to resurrect. You don't need permission from any religious authority. You don't need to be perfect, pure, or worthy. Resurrection is not a reward for good behavior. It is the recognition of the truth that has always been. But there are steps. There is a process. Not because it's complicated, but because the mind needs to be prepared to let go of what it holds on to. First comes the recognition of suffering. Jesus carrying the cross. You recognizing the weight you carry, your stories of hurt, your limiting identities, your thought patterns that generate pain. You cannot let go of what you do not recognize you are carrying. Then comes the crucifixion, the voluntary death of those identities. This is not repression. It is not denying your feelings or pretending everything is okay. It is seeing through the stories you tell yourself. It is recognizing, I am not my thoughts. I am not my emotions. I am not my past. I am not even my body. All of that is part of the experience, but it's not you. This death of the false self is painful. The mind resists. That's why genuine spirituality is never just love and light. There's darkness too. There's darkness too. There's night, the burial, the period where you've let go of the old but the new hasn't fully emerged yet. This is the dark night of the soul that all mystics know. The moment where everything you believed about yourself dissolves and you feel like you're losing your sanity. But if you remain, if you don't run back to the old identities, if you trust the process, if you continue to breathe consciously through the darkness, then comes the resurrection, not with literal trumpets and angels, but with something quieter and deeper, a recognition, an inner certainty, a peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. You haven't conquered anything. You've simply remembered. You remembered that you were never separate, that the division between you and the divine, you and the universe, you and others, was always an illusion, constructed by the mind, maintained by fear, perpetuated by societies that need separate individuals to control. But you are not separate. You are a wave in the ocean that woke up and realized it is the ocean. You are a leaf on the tree that recognized it is the whole tree. You are a ray of sunlight that finally understood it is the sun. This is the oneness that Jesus experienced and tried to communicate. He and the Father are one, not two becoming one. One that always was one but forgot. And when you recognize this, everything changes. Not your circumstances necessarily, but your relationship with them. You still feel pain, but you don't suffer in the same way. You still have challenges, but you're no longer at war with life. You still have preferences, but you're no longer enslaved to them. There's a lightness, a trust, not blind optimism, but deep acceptance of what is, combined with compassionate action when appropriate. This is the resurrected life. Not perfect, not free from difficulties, but free from the fundamental illusion of separation that causes all suffering. And the beauty, the devastating beauty, is that this has always been available, not in the future, not after death, not after years of spiritual practice. Now, in this moment, in this breath. Why then is it so rare? Why do so few live from this space of awakened consciousness? Because we are trained from birth to look outward, to seek value in achievements, to look for happiness in objects, people, experiences. The entire structure of society is built on the assumption that you are incomplete and need something external to complete yourself. Education promises that knowledge will complete you. Career promises that success will complete you. Relationships promises that romantic love will complete you. Traditional religion promises that correct rituals and right beliefs will complete you. And it's all a lie, gentle, well-intentioned maybe, but a lie nonetheless. You are already complete. Always have been. The search is the problem, not the solution. Jesus wasn't searching. He rested in the source. Buddha wasn't searching. He stopped under the tree and just sat until the illusion of separation dissolved. All awakened masters point to the same truth. Stop searching. You are what you seek, but the ego can't accept that. It's too simple. There's no epic journey, no achievement to be proud of, no special status to obtain. It's just the simple, direct, ever-present awareness. So the mind creates complex spirituality, elaborate mantras, intricate rituals, hierarchies of attainment. Not because they are necessary, but because the ego needs something to do. It needs to feel like it's progressing, achieving, becoming special. But resurrection isn't achievement. It's surrender. It's not becoming something greater. It's recognizing that you are already infinite. Breathe again with me now. Feel the air. Cool, entering, sustaining you. You don't control it. You don't earn it. It's given, freely, continuously, life flowing through you. That is grace, not as a religious concept, as lived reality. You don't deserve to breathe. You don't need to earn each heartbeat. It is given, always has been, from the first moment of your existence to this moment now. And if life is given freely, what do you need to do to deserve it? Nothing, absolutely nothing. You are already worthy, not for your actions, not for your beliefs, not for your goodness or spiritual effort, for your existence, for being consciousness manifested, for being life looking at itself through your eyes. This is the true message of the gospel, the good news. Not that a man died for your sins, but that you were never separate from the divine. That your essential nature is sacred. That you don't need to become worthy because you already are. Sin, in that air, the original Christian term for sin comes from the Greek hamartia, which means missing the mark. Not a moral offense against a distant God. Identifying with the false self instead of the true one. And salvation, from the Greek soteria, healing, wholeness, return to original integrity, not rescue from eternal punishment, awakening from present illusion. All the words that have been used to control you through fear, when seen in their original meaning, point to liberation, not imprisonment, to recognition, not conquest, to remembrance, not learning. Are you starting to feel the tremor of truth? The subtle vibration that happens when something profound is recognized. You are not learning, you are remembering. I am not teaching you, I am reminding you. This consciousness that is reading these words, that is aware now, is not new. It was here before you learned your name, before you acquired your beliefs, before all your experiences, and it will be here after all of this is over. It is the context in which all experience happens, the space in which all thoughts arise, the screen on which all life is projected. And it is you, the real you, not the temporary personality, not the character in the story, but the author, the reader, the conscious space in which everything happens. Jesus resurrected when he fully recognized this, when there was no more identification with the temporary body called Jesus, only pure consciousness expressing itself through that form, but not limited to it. And that's why he could say, before Abraham was, I am, not arrogance, consciousness speaking of its timeless nature. I am, pure existence, prior to all forms, including the form Jesus. This is the most radical statement ever made, and it is true for you too. Before all your ancestors existed, you are. Not the personal you, the impersonal I am that is the essence of all life. And when you recognize this, even briefly, you resurrect. You come out of identification with the limited form and recognize yourself as limitless consciousness temporarily focused through this particular form. This does not negate your humanity. It doesn't make you float above life. On the contrary, it makes you more present, more compassionate, more able to truly love, because there is no more fear of losing yourself. How can you lose what you always were? Now, let's go deeper. Close your eyes again. This time, I will guide you through a direct experience of resurrection, not as a metaphor, as present reality. Close your eyes. Sit comfortably. Spine erect, but not rigid. Hands resting. There is nothing to achieve, nothing to achieve, nothing to conquer. Cost willingness to see what has always been here, or start with the breath. Observe it, going in and out. Don't control. Cost observe. It happens on its own. Life, breathing, life. Now, as you watch the breath, realize there is the one who breathes, the body. There is the one who breathes, the body. There is the one who observes both, the consciousness. You are the consciousness, not the body, not the breath, the silent witness of both. Rest as that witness for a few moments, just observing. Thoughts come, no problem. Observe them too, like clouds passing through the sky. The sky is not disturbed by the clouds. You are not disturbed by the thoughts. You are the space in which they appear and disappear. Now bring to mind something with which you strongly identify. Maybe your family role, father, mother, son. Maybe your career. Maybe a core belief about who you are. Maybe a past wound that has become part of your identity. See it clearly. This identification. This story about who you are. And now gently ask who was here before this story began. Who is aware of this identification now? Don't answer with words. Just feel. There is awareness before the stories. There is presence before the identities. There is you, the real you, prior to all roles, all beliefs, all experiences. This is the moment of crucifixion. The identity you held so tightly is seen as not being you. There is sadness, perhaps. A feeling of loss. Let it be. The mind believed that identity was your life. Realizing that it is not can feel like dying. But keep going. Breathe. Remain as a witness. Now comes the burial. the dark space between the old and the new. Just rest here. No stories, no identities, not even knowing who you are. Just, pure consciousnness, vast, empty, pregnant with potential. Like the cosmic womb before creation, there is nothing to do here. Just be, without effort, without direction. Just simply direct presence. And if you stay here, without running back to the old identities, without seeking new ones, something begins to emerge. Not a thought, not an idea, but a recognition, a wordless certainty. You simply are. Pure existence, consciousness without object, presence without content, vast as the sky, silent as deep space, peaceful as still water. This is the resurrection, not dramatic, not with fireworks, but deeply transformative. You have died to the false, and the true, which has always been here, is recognized. Open your eyes slowly when you are ready, but maintain this awareness, this recognition. You are not what you thought you were. You are infinitely more and simpler. This is the empty tomb. You went to look for the old, you and found nothing. Because there never was a solid, separate you, only consciousness dancing as you. And now, living from this recognition, everything is different. You still have preferences. You still act in the world. You still have personality. But you are no longer imprisoned in it. There is freedom, lightness, humor even. Life continues happening through you, but there is no one taking it so personally anymore. Challenges arise, but there is no longer fundamental resistance to life. There is participation, but no more enslavement. This is resurrected life. Not perfect, not always peaceful, but fundamentally free, and the most extraordinary thing, it's contagious, not through preaching, not through conversion, but through presence. When you are anchored in consciousness, others feel it. Something in them recognizes it. Something in them remembers. And perhaps, just perhaps, they too begin to question the stories they believed about themselves. This is the true spreading of the gospel, not through institutions, not through doctrines, but through awakened human beings reminding others of who they really are. Jesus knew this. That's why I didn't write books, didn't build temples. Jesus lived from awakened consciousness and invited others to recognize the same light in themselves. You are the light of the world. Not you will be, you are, now, always have been. But the light has been covered by layers of conditioning, by traumas, by fears, by limiting beliefs, and resurrection is simply the process of removing the layers, not adding anything, just removing what obscures. You don't need to become enlightened. You need to recognize that the light never went out. It was just forgotten. And this recognition, this remembering, can happen in an instant. It doesn't require years of practice. It doesn't require perfection. It only requires perfection. It only requires honesty, willingness to see through the stories you tell about yourself. Of course, the initial recognition is usually followed by a process of integration. The mind returns to old patterns, the ego resurfaces, there are advances and retreats, but something has changed fundamentally. You know now that there is a way out, you have touched the truth, and you can never completely pretend that you don't know again. This is the seed planted. And like all seeds, it will grow, sometimes slowly, sometimes in sudden leaps, but inevitably, because consciousness is your nature, not something to be achieved, but something to be recognized more and more fully. And as you resurrect, as you live more and more from consciousness instead of ego, you become a beacon, not because you are trying to, but because light cannot avoid shining. Others will notice. There is something different about you, they will say, and you won't know exactly how to explain it. Because it's not about what you did, it's about what you stopped doing. You stop believing in the fundamental illusion of separation. This is the second coming of Christ, that the scriptures prophesy, not a man coming down from the clouds, but Christ consciousness, the Buddha nature, the recognition of unity, awakening in more and more human beings. And you, reading these words now, are part of that. Not because you are special, because you are human, and resurrection is your birthright, your essential nature, your deepest truth. So, what do you do now? How do you live from this understanding? Simply, directly, honesty. When you catch yourself in compulsive thoughts, remember, you are not the thoughts, you are the consciousness observing them. Breathe, return to presence. When you catch yourself judging yourself or others, remember judgment arises from the ego that needs to feel superior or protected. Consciousness does not judge. It just observes with compassion. When you feel fear, do not resist. Feel it fully. Recognize it. But remember, you are not the fear. You are the vast space in which fear appears. And as a space in which fear appears, and as a space cannot be damaged, you cannot be truly threatened. And when you experience moments of peace, of connection, of unmotivated love, recognize, this is not special, it's normal. It is your essential nature finally being felt without obstacles. Resurrection is not a destination. It's a way of living, moment by moment, breath by breath, recognition after recognition. And perhaps, just perhaps, by living this way, you fulfill the true mission that all awakened masters, they tried to convey: do not adore me, do not idolize me, do not idolize me, do not build religions around me, but recognize in yourselves what I recognize in myself, and live free. Fifth, this message has reached you now because it was ready to arrive, because something in you was ready to remember. Not by chance, not by luck, but by deep resonance between consciousness and consciousness. If these words have touched something true in you, if you felt that tremor of recognition, that emotion for no apparent reason, that is you remembering, that is you remembering, that is the resurrection beginning, or continuing. And if you wish others to also remember, do not preach these words. Do not convert anyone, simply live them. Be presence, be peace, be peace. Be awakened consciousness moving through the world with compassion. Let your life be the message. Let your peace be the invitation. Let your silence speak louder than 1,000 sermons. And if anyone asks what has changed in you, do not say, "He learned a new philosophy." Say, if the words come, "He remembered who I always was," because this is the truth. The only truth that matters. You were never dead, ghost asleep. And now, in this moment, in this breath, you can wake up. You can resurrect. Not tomorrow, not after more learning. Now, the tomb is empty. It always was, because you never fit in any tomb. You are too vast, too eternal, too free. Welcome back. Welcome to life. Welcome home, which you never left. You have resurrected. Cultural adaptation for English speakers. The segment is already in English, and its message is fairly universal and doesn't rely on specific cultural references that would need heavy adaptation. A few minor tweaks can be made for slightly better flow and impact for a native English-speaking audience. They sought to convey, do not adore me, do not idolize me, do not idolize me, Do not build religions around me, but recognize within yourselves what I recognize within myself, and live free. This message has reached you now, because you were ready to receive it, because something within you was ready to remember, not by chance, not by luck, but by a deep resonance between consciousness and consciousness. If these words have touched something true within you, if you felt that tremor of recognition, that emotion for no apparent reason, that you remembering, that you remembering, that you remembering, or continuing, and if you wish others to also remember, do not preach these words. Do not convert anyone. Simply embody them. Be presence, be peace, be awakened consciousness, moving through the world with compassion. Let your life be the message. Let your peace be the invitation. Let your silence speak louder than 1,000 sermons. And if anyone asks, what has changed about you? Don't say he learned a new philosophy. Say if the words come, he remembered who I always was. Because this is the truth, the only truth that matters. You were never dead. You were never dead. You were never dead. You can wake up. You can resurrect. Not tomorrow, not after more learning. Now, the tomb is empty. It always has been. Because you never fit in any tomb. You are too vast, too eternal, too free. Welcome back. Welcome to life. Welcome home. You never left. You are resurrect.